Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My mother accused me of stealing, kicked me out and cut me off. Then a month later, she called and begged for help because she had lost everything. I'm Ella, and that's how everything started to go wrong. It used to be just me, my little sister Lily, mom and dad. Life was ordinary, nothing fancy, but it was ours. Dad worked fixing cars. And mom was a librarian. That is, until her friend Janet into one of those personal growth workshops. It didn't take long for everything to turn upside down.
I remember the night it all changed.
We were sitting around the dinner table, a medley of laughter, and the clatter of dishes filling the room. Dad had just finished telling a joke about his day at when Mum dropped the news. "I'm quitting my job at the library," she announced. She reached for the mashed potatoes. As if she hadn't just dropped a bombshell, Dad stopped his fork halfway to his mouth. "Why the hell would you quit now, Karen?" Mum's eyes lit up with that scary kind of excitement. "I met some people at the seminar. They invest in stocks and shares.
Property.
All sorts of investments that could make us real money, not just pennies. You're talking about gambling with our savings, Karen. This seminar is messing with your head," Dad snapped. His voice was a mixture of worry and anger. "It's not gambling, Tom. It's about taking risks to get ahead. You're just too scared to see it." Mum shot back. That's how most dinners went after that seminar. Mum chasing dreams of big money, and Dad trying to bring her back to reality. Their arguments got louder, harsher, and nothing like the parents I knew. Then one day, I came home from school to find Mum in the kitchen, papers and her laptop spread out as if she was planning a takeover. "Hey, Mum, what's all this?" I asked, dropping my rucksack. "It's my future, Ella. I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. It's time we started living like the rich," she replied without looking up. "I've invested some money in a promising stock. And tomorrow I'm meeting with a group about a property company. Everything will change for us, you'll see." I really wanted to believe her.
But
it felt like we were getting on a roller coaster, without a seatbelt. And if it doesn't work, what happens then? Mum finally looked up, her eyes fierce. "It will work. I'll make sure of it." Days turned into weeks, and the tension never let up. Dad hated gambling. That was what he called it, no matter what fancy name Mum gave it. I'd hear them at night, their voices raised in another heated debate. "You're throwing away everything we've worked for, Karen. These schemes are nothing but money pits. And you're just too scared to take a real chance." "Tom, I'm trying to build something bigger here. I don't need your negativity." Fights between Mum and Dad were commonplace, each more heated than the last. The stakes were getting higher and higher, and so was the tension. It was like living with a ticking time bomb, waiting for it to go off. One Thursday night, the air in the kitchen was thick enough to cut with a knife. Dad had just discovered Mum had withdrawn a large sum of money from their joint savings account. I tried to concentrate on my homework at the dinner table, but the rising voices made it impossible. "Karen, where's the money from our savings? It's almost half gone." Dad's voice boomed from the doorway as he slapped some papers on the table. Mum, who was chopping vegetables, didn't even flinch. "I invested it, Tom. It's going into a fund that promises triple returns."
we talked about it.
"No, you talked, and I said no. When are you going to stop this madness?" Dad's face was red, his hands balled into fists. "It's not madness, it's opportunity. You'd know if you weren't so stubborn to your penny-pinching ways." Mum shot back, her voice icy. I looked over at Lily, who was quietly scribbling in her notebook. Her little shoulders were hunched up to her ears. It broke my heart to see her like that, trying to block out the storm around her. "Your options are bleeding us dry, Karen. We can't even pay this month's bills on time because of your investments." Dad's voice cracked with frustration. "And we'll make it up tenfold when the returns come in. Just wait and see, Tom. Stop being such a pessimist." Mum replied, slamming the knife down on the counter. The days went by, and the fights continued. Each left a deeper mark than the last. I found myself dreading coming home after school, lingering in the library, or wandering the streets, just to avoid the constant tension. I was 2 years away from graduation when the bomb dropped. It was a Saturday morning that seemed like any other, until Dad found the bank statements. The air was thick with tension as he spread them out on the kitchen table. His eyes scanning the numbers, which made less sense with each glance. What the hell is this, Karen? Dad's voice was a mixture of disbelief and anger. And anger as he looked up at Mum. Mum, sipping her coffee, looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Tom, I wanted to tell me what? That you've gambled away Ella's college fund? Is this your grand plan for financial freedom? Dad threw the statement down and pointed to the glaring zero balance. You didn't just gamble with our money, Karen. You've gambled with our daughter's future. I stood frozen in the doorway, Lily clutching my hand. Both of us wide-eyed. This was worse than any fight before. This was about my life. My college, my escape plan from all this chaos. This is it, Karen, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Dad's voice was cold, resigned. Dad turned to me. His eyes filled with a sadness that made my stomach nod. I'm sorry, Ella, I tried. Within weeks, Dad was gone. He remarried quickly. He moved to another town and started again. He called at first, his voice always strained. Always sorry, but Mum. Always the wounded warrior. She blocked his number and painted him as a traitor. Your father left us girls. He doesn't care. He doesn't even pay alimony, Mum told us one night. Her tone, bitter as she deleted his contact from my phone. With Dad away at college, now a distant dream, it was up to me to keep our ship from sinking. I took a job at the local diner, Benny's. A place where the coffee was bitter, but the paycheck was steady. Every cent I earned went straight to Mum, supposedly to help dig us out of the hole her gambling had buried us in. But despite handing over my wages, the bills piled up. And Mum was hardly ever home, always out chasing her next big score. One particularly long day, I came home after midnight. The house was dark. Lily was asleep on the sofa with books scattered around her. I woke her gently to get her to bed. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness that she had to live like this. The next morning, I was still tired from the double shift. I found Mum at the kitchen table, scribbling in a notebook, filled with numbers and plans. None of them ever seemed to pan out. Mum, what's for dinner tonight? I'm pulling another double. And I won't have time to cook? I asked, hoping she'd done something for once. She didn't look up anything. She just kept scribbling. Don't eat here, eat at work. And you should get Lily a job there too. Or we could use the extra money. Her words hit me like a punch. Are you serious? She's only 14, Mum. And my job is to make sure she doesn't have to work. That she gets to be a child for as long as she can. Mum shrugged, still not looking at me. She needs Mustella. We're drowning here. That evening after my shift, I spotted Mum outside a flashy new casino downtown. She was arguing with a bouncer. Her face was flushed and angry as she was escorted out. Mum, I called, running over. What are you doing? She turned on me, her eyes wild. I was so close. Ella, I have a system I downloaded off the net. It's foolproof. Ella, I just need to tweak it a bit. And then we'll be rolling in it. You think you're going to win big, but it's all a scam. It's designed to make you lose. Mum, the house always wins. Not us, she scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, and you know better. Working at the diner will save us. At least it's real money. Mum, it's honest work, not this fantasy you're chasing. You're an addict. Mum's face hardened. I'm not addicted. I'm trying to put our lives back together. You'll see tomorrow I'll prove it. With that, she stormed off, leaving me alone in the street. I walked home slowly, each step harder than the last. I had to accept it. Mum wasn't going to change. It was up to me to keep Lily safe and try to scrape together some semblance of a future. But when I unlocked our front door, to a pile of bills and final notices, I couldn't help but feel that we were one losing hand, away from losing everything. With Lily's birthday coming up, I threw myself into extra shifts at the diner. She had been upset lately, feeling left out because her clothes weren't as nice as her classmates. I wanted to get her something special, something beautiful that would make her feel and happy on her day. I had a little box, a plain old shoebox, where I put every extra dollar I could spare. I hid it well under my bed, buried under winter clothes and old notebooks. It was going to be a surprise, a good surprise, not like the ones Mum used to spring on us. 2 days before Lily's birthday, while I was at work, I got a desperate text from her. Or it just said, "Come home now." "It's Mum." My stomach dropped. I swapped shifts with a friend and rushed home. My mind raced with what could have gone wrong. This time I arrived screaming. The front door was open, and I could hear Mum's voice booming from my room. When I stepped inside, the scene before me was chaos. Clothes and papers were scattered everywhere. And there was Mum, holding the shoebox. Her face was twisted in anger. "You selfish little rat," Mum screamed as I walked in. "Stealing from your own family. Hoarding money like it was all yours." Which no Mum would let me explain. I tried, but she cut me off. "Explain. Explain how you hide money while we're drowning in debt. Or do you think you're better than me? That you can just do whatever you want?" "That money was for Lily's birthday," I shouted back, trying to make her understand. But it was like talking to a storm. Lily was crying in the doorway, her little frame shaking. "Mum, please, Ella did this for me for my birthday." Mum turned round, her eyes blazing. "Oh, so you knew. Great. Both my daughters conspiring against me. What a great family I have." "It's not like that, Mum. We just wanted to." Lily tried to speak, but Mum wasn't having any of it. "I can't trust any of you." Mum threw the box down. The few notes fluttered to the floor. "Get out if you're going to steal from me. Then you can't stay here." So we packed. Tears and silence filled the space between us. We grabbed what we could, clothes, a few books, anything that seemed necessary. As we stepped out, I looked back to see Mum pull the curtains sharply closed, blocking us from view. Her last gesture to shut us out. Lily clutched her little bag tightly. Her eyes were wide and worried in the dim streetlight. "Ella, we should call Dad," she murmured, her voice a mixture of hope and fear. I hesitated, the old bitterness and Mum's harsh words about Dad leaving us echoed in my head, but despair clawed at my chest. And the reality was that we had nowhere else to go. "Okay," I said, finally pulling out my battered mobile phone. I scrolled through contacts I hadn't touched in years. Finding his number felt like unearthing a relic from another life. My thumb hovered over the call button. A lifeline so desperately needed, yet so heavy with past grievances. I pressed call before I could change my mind. The line clicked, and then his voice, warm and unfamiliar, filled my ear. "Hello, Dad. It's Ella and Lily. We need some help."
I
blurted out, the words coming out in a rush. "Mum, she kicked us out. We have nowhere to go." There was a pause, heavy and thick. Then he said quietly, but firmly, "I'm sending you money right now for train tickets. Come to me. We'll work it out together." True to his word, the money arrived. Minutes later, we booked tickets for the next train to where Dad lived. A city that felt worlds away from our troubles. But in reality, it was only a few hours away by train. The train journey was quiet. We were both lost in our thoughts. On arrival, the sight of Dad waiting at the station, his worried face, was almost too much. He looked the same and yet so different. Next to him was his new wife, Claire. Her smile was warm but cautious. "Dad," I managed, my voice thick. He pulled us into a tight embrace. "Let's get you girls home," he said as he led us to his car. At the house, a modest but welcoming place. We sat down in the living room. The air was filled with the smell of freshly brewed coffee. Dad's wife excused herself, leaving us to talk. It was then, in the soft light of the living room, that we poured everything out. The fights, the plans, the eviction. Dad listened. His expression grew darker with each word. When we finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out and took both my hands in his. "I didn't know," he said softly, his voice heavy with guilt. I've been sending money for your education. Every month. I had no idea you were going through all this. Lily and I exchanged glances. The pieces fell into place. The missing money, the lies. It was too much to take in all at once. I'm sorry, Dad went on, his eyes moist. I should have seen through it. I should have been there. It's not your fault, Dad, I said. I felt the weight lift, slightly with each word spoken. We're here now. That's what matters. Dad nodded and squeezed my hands. You're right, and I'm going to make it right. Ella will get you into college. And Lily? There's a great school just a few blocks from here. You'll love it, I promise. The relief was palpable. We both let out breaths we hadn't realized we were holding. Lily leaned forward. She wrapped her arms around Dad in a fierce hug. I joined in, and for a moment, the world didn't seem so cold and hard. The next morning, we gathered around the breakfast table in Dad's kitchen. The sunlight poured in like a promise. Claire, who I learned was a solicitor, brewed coffee and chatted about the local school system. Her voice was soft and reassuring. So you girls are going to need some guidance. Claire started to pour herself a cup. Your father has told me everything, and I want you to know that I'm here to help you legally. Personally, whatever you need. Lily munched on her toast. She looked up with a hopeful look. Does that mean you can stop, Mum? Her voice trailed off, but the question hung in the air, heavy and full of past pain. Claire sat down, her expression serious but friendly. Yes, Lily. I'm going to make sure she can't drag you back into this mess. Back into this mess. We'll apply for full custody and make sure the alimony stays out of unreliable hands. The conversation moved on to lighter topics. Plans for the school year and my college preparations. I had started reading again, dusting off old textbooks, and filling my head with knowledge that had nothing to do with survival. It felt strange and yet exhilarating. Lily was enrolled in a nearby school, and with Claire's help, started wearing fresh, new clothes. This made her beam with confidence every morning. She left home 3 months after our world had been turned upside down. I was deep in a study session when my phone rang. Seeing Mum's number flash on the screen churned my stomach. Ella, Mum's voice was shrill, desperate. They have taken her away from me, Ella. They say I can't be Lily's mother anymore. And they want the maintenance back. The money they say I stole. Their words, once capable of manipulating my emotions, they now fell flat, filtered through the clarity of distance. And, Mum, you took the money. Money that was meant for us, for our future. You used us. Mum's voice became harsh, poisonous. Ungrateful girl. Come back here and work, pay off this debt. That's the least you owe me. I felt the old pull, the trained instinct to calm, to placate. But I wasn't that person anymore. No, Mum, I don't owe you anything. Dad's been paying you for years, and you lied to us. To everyone, I'm done. I hung up before she could answer, before I could hear the sobs.
Or the anger that.
Pull me back in. I turned off my phone. I sat for a moment in the silence of Dad's study, the weight of the calls sinking in. I'd stood up for Lily. It was a new feeling, frightening but empowering. Then I returned to my books. The page is less intimidating now. I was building something new, something mine. The past would always be a part of me, but it would not define my future. Not anymore. As Dad had promised, he supported me through college, covering my tuition, so I could concentrate on my studies, without the crushing weight of debt. But despite the financial safety net he provided, old habits die hard. I couldn't shake the need to support myself. I got a part-time job in a local cafe. I juggled work with my classes. It felt good to be earning my keep and keeping busy. Claire, Dad's wife, turned out to be more than just a steely lawyer. She became the anchor of the family. We didn't know we were missing her. For Lily, she was there at every school function, clapping louder than anyone else. For me, she showed up at my college. She attended every important ceremony. One night, as we sat around the dinner table, I couldn't help but express my gratitude. Claire, I don't know how to thank you. You've been to every PDA meeting, every recital. It means the world to us. Claire smiled and handed me the salad. It's no big deal, Ella. You girls are my family now. I'm just doing what any parent would do. The years rolled on. Each term a new challenge, but also a new opportunity to prove how far I'd come. By my final year, I'd managed to get a scholarship that would cover my tuition fees in full. However, I kept the job at the cafe, not just for the money, but for the sense of normalcy it gave me. One morning, as I wiped down the tables before opening, I met my boss, Jerry, a gruff man who had run the cafe for decades. Nodded approvingly at me. You're one of the good ones, Ella. Always pushing, always striving. Proud to have you here. Thanks, Jerry. It's been good for me, keeps me grounded. Graduation day came sooner than I expected. As I stood there, cap and gown fluttering slightly in the spring breeze, I saw them, Dad, Claire and Lily, their faces beaming with pride and joy as they walked across the stage. I wasn't just getting a diploma. I was starting a new chapter, one I had written for myself against all odds. That seemed insurmountable. With a degree in hand and a job lined up, I moved into a small flat in the city. It was modest, but it was mine. Claire helped me move in by arranging the furniture and decorating. This is a new start, Ella. Make it your own, she advised. As we arranged the last of the books on a new shelf, I planned to make it really special, Claire. After college, life settled into a new rhythm. My days were filled with constant movement, of working in a career company. The job was demanding but rewarding, and I appreciated the stability and decent salary it offered. One afternoon, as I was finishing my rounds, my phone rang. The familiar number, flashing on the screen, made my heart sink. Mum. I took a deep breath and answered. I braced myself for what was to come. Ella, I need your help. Mum's voice was urgent, tinged with desperation. What's wrong? I asked, although part of me already knew the answer. I've lost the house, Ella. The bank took it because I couldn't keep up with the payments. I'm on the street now, she confessed. Her voice breaking, the news hit me hard, even though part of me had been waiting for the other shoe to drop for years. Mum, I'm sorry to hear that, but I just need some money to get back on my feet, to pay off my debts. You can help me, can't you? Her voice was pleading now, the familiar cadence of manipulation running through her words. I stopped, the weight of our past and her decisions pressing down on me. Mum, I can help you get treatment for your gambling. That's what you need, not more money to chase your losses. A reaction was immediate and visceral, laced with anger. Are you an ungrateful brat? After all I have done for you, you'd let your own mother live on the streets? Mum, that's not fair, and you know it. I'm offering you real help. Please take it. My voice was firm. Years of being manipulated had hardened me against her. Guilt trips, she cursed. Then I pour through the line, each word sharper than the last. I held the phone away from her ear. Angry tirade. A dark reminder of why we had drifted so far apart. Finally, I spoke in my own voice, calm but determined. I'm sorry you feel this way, Mum. I hope one day you'll get the help you need. With that, I hung up and did something I should have done years ago. I blocked her number. The rest of the day was a blur. Until the time I met Lily at our usual coffee place. My thoughts were a mess. Lily noticed immediately. Hey, what's wrong? Her concern was obvious as she reached across the table. She covered my hand with hers. It's Mum, I began, pouring out the whole conversation. Her demands, her anger, and my decision to finally cut ties. Lily was silent for a long moment after I finished. Her expression was thoughtful. Then she squeezed my hand gently. You did the right thing, Ella. It's hard, but it's right. She's not the person we once loved. She's made her choices. I nodded, feeling the truth in her words. It hurts, Lil. It feels like I'm letting her down. But I know she abandoned herself a long time ago. Sometimes The hardest choices are the ones that save us. Lily said quietly, wisdom beyond her years in her eyes. You choose not to drown with her. We have our own lives to live. Her words settled something deep inside me. I was tired of the cycle of hope and disappointment that came with every call from Mum. It was time to break free, to really start again. As we left the cafe, the evening air felt fresher, lighter, as if an affirmation of my choice. I knew the road wouldn't always be smooth, but I was ready to face it, to build, to dream, and to believe in the best of what was yet to come.